Welcome back to Open Mind Galaxy, ready to dive deep into some fascinating global trends for 2025. Buckle up, because we're about to explore a world reshaped by geopolitical tensions, technological leaps, and of course, the ever-present wild card of climate change. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Open Mind Galaxy. Now let's get started.
Sounds exciting.
It is. It's 2025, and the world is looking, well,
Different.
very different, yeah. We've got two reports on the table today, the Crisis 24 Global Risk Forecast and the Institute of Internal Auditors Risk in Focus report. Both paint a pretty intense picture of what's ahead.
Yeah, definitely not your light beach reading.
Not exactly. We've got rising global tensions, new alliances forming, and even, get this, a familiar face back in U.S. politics. Someone with, let's say, a penchant for shaking things up.
I think our listeners can probably guess who we're talking about.
I think so. But these reports aren't just predicting events. They're digging into the WHY. What does it all mean for you? That's where you come in ready to connect the dots and help us make sense of it all.
I'm ready. And one thing that jumps out at me is the idea of a new world order. The Cold War, that old East versus West rivalry, it's over. But a new geopolitical fault line is emerging.
So not as simple as just East versus West anymore.
Not at all. The Crisis 24 report points to how conflicts, especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East, are really redrawing the lines. Russia, Iran, and their allies are kind of on one side.
With the West and his partners on the other, right?
Right. But then there's powerful players like India who are choosing a different path, a neutral one.
And then there's China, always a big player. They're actively pushing for a multipolar world, one where the West, well, doesn't call all the shots.
Exactly. And with a potential return of a more isolationist Trump administration in the U.S., things get even more
uncertain.
That's the word. It's both uncertain and, well, full of opportunity. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Definitely. The Crisis 24 report really dives deep into these conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East and how they're impacting, well, everything.
It goes way beyond just the battlefields. We're talking public health crises, economic instability.
Supply chains going haywire.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine shipping routes having to go all the way around Africa because of, say, attacks in the Red Sea.
Or airlines constantly rerouting flights to avoid airspace closures or electronic interference. That's the reality we might be facing.
It is. It's a very different world out there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And both reports highlight technology as a major, well, driver of change for both good and bad.
The Risk in Focus report, in particular, is sounding the alarm about AI. Its potential to disrupt, well, just about everything, is huge.
AI is changing cybersecurity, the workforce, even how internal auditors do their jobs, right?
Absolutely. But there's this lack of, well, governance and control around how it's being adopted.
So it's kind of like the Wild West out there.
Yeah. A lot of potential, but a lot of unknowns, too.
Exactly. And speaking of the human element, Risk in Focus really emphasizes that.
People are still at the heart of it all. Yes. Think about the protests in Kenya in 2024, how they sparked movements across Africa, all driven by young people demanding change.
Digitally connected, demanding change. And remember to like and subscribe to Open Mind Galaxy. It's amazing to think about the power of, well, people coming together like that.
It is, but on the flip side, businesses are struggling. Talent retention, the rise of the gig economy.
Finding people with the skills for this tech-driven world.
It's a real challenge.
It is. And, of course, we can't forget about climate change.
It's not going away anytime soon.
Both reports agree on that. It's not just a future threat, it's our present reality.
The Crisis 24 report warns about extreme weather events becoming the norm.
Disrupting infrastructure, global health systems, the works.
Exactly. But there's a silver lining. Risk in Focus actually sees opportunities for businesses to adapt and become more resilient.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all. It's about, well, turning challenges into opportunities.
We've got a lot to unpack here. A world in flux, full of challenges and opportunities.
Which definitely keeps things interesting.
That's for sure. But we've only just scratched the surface. So let's zoom in a bit. What's happening in specific regions?
Well, sub-Saharan Africa, for one. The Crisis 24 report, it really highlights the ongoing security challenges there, especially in the Sahel region.
Driven by what exactly?
Lots of factors, really. A government instability, militant jihadism, and, well, the withdrawal of Western forces. It's created this kind of vacuum.
A vacuum
that others might try to fill. Private military companies, for instance. But that can make things worse, you know?
Exacerbate the instability.
Exactly. And then there are human rights concerns. It's a tricky situation, to say the least.
And what about Africa's young population? They're digitally connected, politically active, The report mentions that.
Right, they're a force to be reckoned with. Look at those protests in Kenya in 2024. They spread like wildfire across the continent.
All thanks to.
Technology, really? Social media, it's amazing how it connects people, amplifies their voices.
He's on the platform.
Exactly. They're demanding change, holding their leaders accountable. It's pretty inspiring.
It is. Okay, let's shift gears. Asia Pacific. What's happening there?
The Crisis 24 report points to some challenges, particularly for those fragile civilian governments in Southeast Asia.
Fragile because of?
Corruption, military influence, you name it. And then there's that ongoing rivalry between the U.S. and China, always looming in the background.
Adding fuel to the fire.
You could say that. Myanmar's a big concern. The unrest there could spill over into neighboring countries,
Causing even more instability.
That's the worry. And speaking of instability, Afghanistan, the report predicts it'll remain a haven for Islamist terror groups.
So, the risk of attacks, both regional and international.
Unfortunately, yes. It's a reminder that terrorism is still a very real threat.
And a reminder that what happens in one part of the world can impact us all.
Exactly. Global interconnectedness and all that.
Right. Okay, what about the Middle East and North Africa? Always a hotbed of, well...
Tensions.
Yeah, tensions. The Crisis 24 report really hones in on the Iran-Israel situation.
It's like a powder keg just waiting for a spark.
And if it explodes.
Global supply chains, especially for oil, could be severely impacted. Think about the Strait of Hormuz, that vital waterway.
Essential for global trade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If that gets disrupted, the economic repercussions would be massive.
Okay, Europe now. What does the report have to say about that?
Russia. They're expected to continue those destabilizing activities, the cyber attacks, the disinformation campaigns, all targeting Western democracies.
We've already seen how effective those tactics can be.
Yeah.
Interfering in elections, sowing discord within NATO, it's all part of their playbook.
And it's likely to intensify around key elections in 2025. Countries like Albania, Germany, Poland, they're all potential targets.
So they're trying to
Manipulate public opinion, undermine those democratic institutions.
scary to think about.
It is. It's a reminder that information warfare is very real.
And potentially very dangerous.
Absolutely. Okay, last but not least, the Americas. What does the Crisis 24 report have to say about our neck of the woods?
Organized crime. That's a big one, especially in Latin America. The violence in Mexico, for example.
It's heartbreaking, really. The drug cartels, the infighting, innocent people getting caught in the crossfire.
In Colombia. The peace talks, they're facing roadblocks.
Yeah, those criminal groups, they're resisting disarmament. They've got too much to lose, financially speaking.
Cocaine production, illegal gold mining, human trafficking. It's all big business down there.
Unfortunately, yes. And closer to home, here in the U.S., the report predicts protests will likely continue.
Over what issues?
Immigration policies, conflicts in the Middle East, those kinds of things, those divisions in American society, they run deep.
Regardless of who's in charge, those tensions are there.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the Crisis 24 report, but what about the IIA's Risk and Focus report? How do these global trends impact specific industries?
That's a good question, and it's something the report dives into in quite a bit of detail. Technology is a big one, obviously. AI in particular.
It's a game changer, that's for sure. Both a challenge and an opportunity.
But the report stresses the need for, well, some kind of control, right? Some guidelines, some ethical framework.
Absolutely. Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all. Companies are rushing to implement AI solutions without thinking about the consequences.
Or the ethical implications.
Right. Take hiring, for example. Some companies are using AI to analyze resumes, identify potential candidates. But without careful oversight, those algorithms can perpetuate existing biases.
Leading to discrimination.
Exactly. It's crucial to think about the ethics of AI from the very beginning.
And that's where internal auditors come in.
They play a crucial role ensuring that AI is used responsibly and ethically. They're like the guardians of good governance in the age of AI.
It's a big responsibility.
It is. And then there's cybersecurity. That's another area that's front and center in the Risk and Focus report.
Businesses are becoming more and more reliant on technology, which makes them more vulnerable to cyber attacks, data breaches, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's a constant threat, one that's constantly evolving.
So what can companies do?
Be proactive. Have robust cybersecurity measures in place. Conduct regular audits, assess third-party risks, develop incident response plans. Don't wait for a breach to happen before you take action.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. And amidst all this talk about technology, let's not forget about the human element.
People are still important.
More than ever, the Risk and Focus report really emphasizes that. Human capital, diversity, talent management, retention, these are all crucial factors for navigating this uncertain future.
So, in a world that's becoming increasingly automated, it's still people who matter.
Absolutely. They're the ones driving innovation, creativity, business success. Companies need to find ways to attract and retain top talent.
Which is easier said than done in today's competitive job market.
True, but it's not just about offering competitive salaries and benefits. Employees, especially those younger generations, they're looking for something more
Like
purpose, meaning they want to work for companies that align with their values.
companies that offer opportunities for growth and development.
Exactly. It's about creating a company culture that attracts and retains the best and brightest.
A culture that fosters innovation, embraces diversity.
Those are the companies that will thrive in the long run.
All right, last but not least, let's talk about climate change. Both reports, they really underscore the urgency of this issue.
It's no longer a future threat. It's impacting businesses right now. Extreme weather events, disrupted supply chains, changing consumer preferences, it's all happening.
And ignoring it is no longer an option.
Exactly. The IIA report, it sees both risks and the opportunities associated with climate change.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Not at all. Companies that embrace sustainability, reduce their carbon footprint, develop innovative solutions, they actually have a chance to gain a competitive edge.
So it's about turning a challenge into an opportunity.
Absolutely. Sustainability is no longer just a nice to have, it's a business imperative.
It seems like businesses today are facing a whole new level of complexity when it comes to risk. It's not just about one thing, it's about everything.
Right. Yeah, it's interconnected. The IIA report talks about this enterprise risk management framework.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
Well, it means looking at risks across the entire organization, not just in silos, but as a whole.
So better communication, making sure everyone's on the same page.
That's the idea. And it's not just internal either. You have to consider third-party suppliers, partners, even customers.
Because a weak link anywhere can trim the whole thing down, right?
Exactly. And along with this integrated approach, the Crisis 24 report really stresses resilience.
Bouncing back from those disruptions.
Exactly. Having a plan, being able to adapt when things go wrong. It's essential in this day and age.
So being proactive, not just reacting after the fact.
Exactly. Anticipate, prepare, and be ready to pivot. That's the key.
Which leads to what I think is the biggest takeaway from both reports. Staying informed and adapting to change.
Couldn't agree more. The world's changing so fast, it's easy to get overwhelmed. But you can't just bury your head in the sand.
You have to stay ahead of the curve.
Right. Exactly. Know the risks, the opportunities, and be ready to adjust your course. That's where resources like these reports come in.
They give us a roadmap, a way to navigate this complex world.
They do. But remember, they're just a starting point. You have to think critically, apply the information to your own situation.
Make it work for you.
Exactly. This deep dive has been a whirlwind, hasn't it?
It has. Geopolitics, technology, the human element, climate change. It's a lot to process.
It is, but it's also exciting. The world's in flux, full of challenges, yes, but also full of opportunities.
For those who are ready to embrace the change.
Absolutely. So what are your takeaways? What will you do differently in 2025? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for joining us on Open Mind Galaxy, and don't forget to like and subscribe.